Hello, everyone. We'll get started in 1 minute. All right, let's get started. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our webinar on how to grow your business using LinkedIn without spending a dime. We have a great group of speakers today, and I'm very excited to introduce you to all of them. First off, let me introduce myself. My name is Celine. I head up product marketing for LinkedIn content, so think company pages and sponsored updates. We have a very strong ecosystem of partners with great capabilities. One of them is Spreadfast. They're experts in social media management and have great success in helping companies strengthen their presence on LinkedIn. Carolyn is joining us. She's VP of Services at Spreadfast. Her role is providing strategic consulting to Spreadfast clients. We're so lucky to have you, Carolyn. So excited to hear more about what you do at Spreadfast and learn some strategies from you. Next up is Trish from Highmark Health, who heads up Highmark's social media strategy. Trish and her team have demonstrated some impressive results on LinkedIn and beyond. So very excited to have her as well. And then last but not least, we have Stacy from Level 3 Communications. She leads Level 3's communication strategy on all social media channels, soup to nuts, from editorial schedule to content production, then to communications. Stacy and her team won many awards for their impressive work at Level 3. I'm very excited to tap into these speakers' wisdom and learn from their best practices. As you will see from examples in our webinar, you'll get a great breadth on what works on LinkedIn and what doesn't, leveraging the breadth of experience of our speakers on various social media platforms. So before we get started, I want to go through a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please use the WebEx Q&A feature. We'll have some time at the end for your questions, so this would be a great time for you to start putting in those questions. If you have any shout-outs, you can tweet them using the handle LinkedIn Content. And this will be a recorded session. You will receive both the recording of the session as well as the slides that we review in a few days right after this webinar. And if you have any feedback, please fill out the survey that will be available to you at the end of the webinar. This feedback will really help us hone in what you're interested in and help us determine what the next topics will be. So we have a jam-packed agenda today. Let's get right to it. First, I will give you an overview of company pages and the LinkedIn content ecosystem and why it matters to your business. Then I will hand it over to Carolyn at Spreadfast, who will give us a great blueprint on what your LinkedIn strategy needs to be to grow your business effectively using the free tools we got. Then we have Trish from Highmark Health and then Stacy from Level 3 Communications, respectively, give us insights on how they think about their social presence on LinkedIn and how they use LinkedIn to achieve their marketing objectives and recruiting objectives. Lastly, I will go over some company pages best practices and have really specific examples from really great company pages. And hopefully at the end, we'll have plenty of time for your questions. All right, I'm going to start us off with the content ecosystem on LinkedIn and the importance of your company page. So over the last few years, we've launched many content initiatives on LinkedIn, Pulse to receive the latest professional news, influencers for exclusive thought leadership content, writing on LinkedIn for members to share their expertise with their peers and our platform, And SlideShare is a great resource for rich content, such as presentations. And finally, company pages, which is the hub of your company's identity and source of rich information about your company. And with these additions to LinkedIn, we've seen that content became one of the most important components of our social platform. We see 7 times more engagement with content than jobs on LinkedIn. So that makes LinkedIn the definitive publishing platform for professional content, and companies and company pages are a big part of this ecosystem. And whether you're actively building your company page presence on LinkedIn or not, you have visitors to your company page that are coming from search, jobs that you may have posted, your employees' profiles, or featured news about you on Pulse or other areas. So you have this great opportunity to make an impression on these visitors. And your company page is where you can build your company's identity, so you have an opportunity to tell your brand story to your prospects, your customers, job seekers, and your employees. And then you can create a network, a community of these employees and followers that are all using your company page. And lastly, it's a great opportunity to disseminate knowledge. Professionals come to LinkedIn to further their career. You have the opportunity to play a big role in leveraging your company updates, your employees' content, and influencers if you have them. You can keep job applicants informed about open positions by posting your jobs on LinkedIn, and then educate these interested candidates with rich content on your company pages. And likewise with your marketing audience. They will come to your company page when they're researching about solutions. So this is a great place to educate them about your brand and your product offerings. Now I will turn it over to Carolyn to talk about how to put together a smart strategy to grow your business on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Celine. I appreciate it. One of the things that we find extremely valuable at Spreadfast is actually knowing about LinkedIn, the fact that it is one of the most established social networks that you have available to you. There's no guessing about who the members are and what they want. You have a community of 380 million members that are telling you that they want to hear more about thought leadership, expertise, information about your organization, how they can grow their career. They engage very, very heavily on mobile. It's a pretty even mix of male and female, but this is an audience that they're looking for information. So as you are starting to think about your strategy and how you want to talk to that audience, you want to look at, they're looking for you to share valuable insights to them. And coming across as an organization, you want to provide value to them rather than this just being a push marketing, where I'm just pushing my product information on you or anything like that. This is a two-way communication, and this is really a place that the LinkedIn audience comes and will continue to come to build that expertise. What we've seen with regard to great social success on LinkedIn is thinking about your customer life cycle and building an entire content strategy around every campaign and around your entire digital marketing plan of how you leverage LinkedIn to help you in every single step of this customer life cycle. There's excellent opportunities at each step, and if you think about it on how you target and how you direct your content and make that available, you'll find interesting elements of posts and be able to create a great content mix to make that available. If we think about we're talking to an early stage prospect or somebody that doesn't know that much about our company, our products, our services, this is where you can actually spend a lot of time helping them understand, one, what is your point of view? What set of expertise do you have available to share with them about the industry? There's a number of ways we've seen customers do this in actually creating webinars like this one and talking about that on LinkedIn. We also have business studies and things that you're doing within your industry, as well as creating white papers And one of the best customer examples that we actually worked with one of our customers, in this instance, it was a B2B customer, where they actually used SlideShare to create a social specific white paper to help define what they were looking for, and their point of view on how to be successful in their industry. And they actually went out and engaged experts in the industry as well. And in the white paper, they had pages where there were quotes from those experts. So then as they were creating posts about their white paper, they were able to actually mention those experts and get that additional pull through from those leading industry experts. And what we saw was those experts actually engage with the content as well. And so it's a great way to get, again, you as a thought leader, as someone that they're going to come back to see and find more information available to them. Now that you've actually kind of got them interested in who you are, now you want to be able to nurture that experience for them. You want them to help learn more about your organization, about your products, your services, and start highlighting some information that they can start gathering and collecting that information, so that as they filter through kind of that overall customer process. But you also want to be able to give them some strategy highlights. So if you think about what are some of our product updates and how are those things meaningful to them? So percentages, if somebody, gained a cost efficiencies or different ways to think about how you can leverage that strategic insights, but also telling them about a product feature. But you constantly want to be able to have information about your organization and make sure that you have a consistent cycle that you're going through on as far as your campaigns. And then as we go through that decision-making process, one of the things that we saw most effective here was making them comfortable with their decision. And the best way to do that is really through customer stories and case studies. In essence, you're giving them a reason, you're giving them another customer and justification to help them through their decision-making process. One of the examples we had here was we actually had a customer create an entire campaign with their customers, and they actually did it across all of the social networks. But they identified 12 different customers, and each customer had a month. And so they put together a story for each customer. So each week there were 1 to 2 posts about this individual customer and their findings and their success. At the same time, on their Facebook page, they changed their overall header image. So it became this thing that everybody became to expect of, I know this is the timing for a new customer story, and people were coming back to LinkedIn to be able to see, what is this new customer insight going to give me? And rather than it being this long white paper, this long document that they had to process through, we gave it to them in bits and bytes, and so it kept coming back. And then we also had each customer involved in making sure that they were responding and engaging. So thinking about helping them make that decision and making them really comfortable. Once they've actually made the decision and have become a customer, this is where you want to actually make them feel good about making that decision. So how do we help them do that? And this is where you can start putting in content around best practices. What have we seen other people be successful doing? And be able to share that type of information as well. So how did others do what I'm doing? And what were any of the mistakes they made? How do I avoid some of those things? What makes them successful? And that's a great way to, again, make them very comfortable. And then the last, and this is really where it ties back to those the company page, is really getting some of them to come back and make recommendations on your company page, getting your customers to engage and getting your customers to recognize. And so tying that full loop and having them engage throughout the process. The other big thing that we see is the content itself actually matters greatly in how you think about it. Words matter, images matter, and how we think about showing and sharing that information. I want to share one example of a campaign that we did at SpreadFast. We had created our Smart Social Report, which was really about using data to drive your social strategy. And we want to give you a couple of examples and share. So in LinkedIn, we focus on talking about new research and what brands are exploring, and you'll see the images that we chose to use versus some of the things on Facebook. It's a little bit more casual, we're talking about the excitement, versus on Twitter, we're talking about some numbers and things like that. So as you develop your voice and your point of view, this is where you're going to want to really test out and really think through what content and what images resonate. And then as you go through that full life cycle, you'll also see in different stages of how that content needs to adjust on LinkedIn. Now, how do you manage that overall? One of the best things, and obviously I have a slightly biased point of view, is leveraging technology. One of the biggest mistakes that we see folks doing is they dip their toe into the water with LinkedIn and start getting really active, and then they forget about it sometimes. And what we need to do is, this is such a powerful channel, this needs to become a standard part of your entire content plan, your campaign plan. And so the best way to think about this is really leveraging technology to schedule your content so that you can see, you know what your content mix is. What we're recommending and what we've seen with LinkedIn is kind of a best case posting cadence on LinkedIn is 1 to 3 posts a day. And that's where you really want to think about how you're targeting and what type of message you're delivering so that you can make sure that you have that consistent message out there. Obviously, the asset management, as we talked about, knowing which images work for that LinkedIn audience. They are not necessarily going to resonate with the same images that work on Facebook or some of the other social networks. And then the last is really, again, if we think about this customer life cycle, being able to leverage all of the different departments and thinking about how we coordinate that. And the most important out of all of this is to evaluate and monitor what you're doing and make sure that you're constantly making adjustments. You'll want to create that campaign analysis strategy. So as we were talking about, as my campaign, I want to think about what level and what stage I'm engaging those members on. Is this a lead generation type of campaign, or that stage of that lead generation campaign? Then I want to be able to identify that and know what content resonated. And then we'll want to identify those key success metrics. And as you go through this, as we all know, things change, and so you'll want to adjust that strategy. Out of everything, the great elements that LinkedIn provides you is this great insights into who your audience is and some details around their professions. And so definitely take a look at that and know who you're targeting with your content, know what messages resonate. And then you can definitely use the URL source tagging as well to know what's driving my leads, who are downloading my white paper. Are they coming from that lead generation content, or are they coming from that nurturing type of content? And so you want to bring that kind of full story and make sure that you're constantly creating and monitoring that overall campaign. I'm going to turn it over to Trish, and she's going to actually share even more details of how they're doing some of this at Highmark Health.
Great, thanks, Carolyn. Really quick, just to give you an idea of who we are as Highmark Health as a company. We are the 3rd largest integrated healthcare delivery and financing network in the nation. We're based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we serve about 40 million people in 50 states and employ more than 35,000 people nationwide. Highmark Health is the parent company of Highmark Inc., which is our insurance division. The Allegheny Health Network, which is an integrated delivery network of hospitals and health facilities, and HM Health Solutions, which provides IT solutions for our enterprise, in addition to other unaffiliated health insurance systems. So there are a lot of companies underneath of us, but all of the companies you see with stars are actually represented on LinkedIn if you want to dig in and find out a little more about them. And Highmark is also represented across various social channels, and we're a team of 5 and a great manager who manage all of these platforms. And LinkedIn is part of that. It's a fairly new channel for us. But our team manages Highmark Health and the Highmark Inc. LinkedIn channel. And while there are some similarities and differences, we're going to focus mostly on the Highmark Health channel today just for the sake of time. In addition to strategy and content development, I'm sure a lot of you this will resonate with you. We are also, photographers and graphic designers and videographers, just due to the nature of the fast pace of social. So a lot of stuff happening in our world. So our team actually developed a great strategy for all of our channels. So this resonates not just with our LinkedIn channels, but with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. We're trying to accomplish all of these things when we're speaking to our customers on our channels. We want to humanize our brand, inspire our followers, promote everything we're doing with our company, and educate the folks who are following us about insurance and healthcare, and also respond. We take care of social care on our channels as well. So if someone comes and talks to us, we respond and field that question where it needs to go within the company. So that hyper strategy, health insurance isn't very sexy. So this was a way for us to work on a big picture, to be able to drill down and then find these things that will resonate with our followers and actually inspire them to engage with us. LinkedIn is a fairly new channel for us. As I mentioned, it was managed predominantly by our talent acquisition team until late last year, and it moved over to our social team. The talent folks, they still do a lot of the heavy hitting in actually creating the jobs you'll see listed for Highmark Health and our diversified businesses. They have recruiter seats within LinkedIn, and they work on a lot of the heavy recruiting. But the content strategy actually moved over to us in the social team. And though it moved last year, just due to the bandwidth of the department, the actual strategy didn't start to be developed until February of this year. So like a lot of you on the webinar, we're working on our strategy too, and we've learned a lot of things in just a short period of time. And most of our message and most of our content is driven by what are the goals for the channel and who is our audience. This is echoing a lot of what Carolyn said, but that was the first thing we had to determine before we could even figure out how LinkedIn fits into that hyper strategy and what kind of content and what kind of message we want to deliver to our audience out there. LinkedIn has a great tab if you haven't explored it on your company page yet. The Analytics tab will show you numerous things about your followers, what industry they're in, what job function, what level of management, are they your employees, who's actually out there following you on your channel. And not surprising for our industry, hospital and healthcare is our top industry. Healthcare services is our job function. These are the folks that rank highest on the list of followers by percentage. Senior and entry-level management makes up more than half of our audience. Senior leads that. And non-employees, we have almost 100% of our Highmark Health channel is followed by outside eyes that maybe don't know a lot about our company or what we do. So knowing that information helps us shape our content, as well as through a little bit of recon work. This information isn't necessarily easily available, but by looking at the types of posts that people engage with, we have a lot of engagement with our career posts and updates we create about jobs that are open. So that tells me we have a fairly high percentage of job seekers behind our channel. Also, from some comments that have been made and some interactions we've had, we know we have some customers out there, and also by actually clicking through and seeing who's engaging and looking at profiles, I've noticed that we have some competitors out there. So they're there seeing what we're doing and maybe picking up some tips or shaping their own strategy from what we're doing. And once we had that audience in mind, we had an idea who we were talking to, we started to develop a goal for the channel, and positioning Highmark Health as a thought leader and an industry leader is really important to us. What are we doing that other companies aren't doing in the healthcare industry? Where are we making strides ahead of other people, whether it's regionally or nationally, and sharing that content. That also leads into the next goal, which is to position us and our diversified businesses as employers of choice so that we can recruit quality talent. So not just by posting our job updates or having a career tab on our page, but what can we share in more depth through content and updates that'll get people to engage and know more about us, that shows us as a thought leader. So the boxes you see there were some kind of big pictures that we threw out and said, you know what, these are some things that can really help us do this and develop content within these big categories. So the first couple, showcasing our leadership, our VPs, our board of directors, where they're speaking, what they're doing, blogs they've written, and also showcasing our employees through awards they've won, whether that's internal in the industry or things they're doing in the community to help promote, health and healthcare. Both of those humanize and promote us as a company, fitting it back into that hyper strategy. Company news and innovations, that's stuff we're doing in our communities, sharing foundation money with companies, and our Vital program, and things that are the innovations out there that are pushing us ahead of the pack. That promotes us as a company. It also educates our followers. Wellness at work, we are a healthcare industry, and while I could say, get your flu shot, I think it fits the channel a little more. We have a lot of professional people out there and job seekers to inspire them to be healthy in their workplace. What can they do to de-stress at their desk? What can they do to keep healthy in an open work environment? So that inspires them to live a healthier lifestyle. And then the last two, career tips and benefits of employment, those educate as well folks about our company and who we are and what we do. So once we have our goals, we know who we're talking to, figuring out how we actually should communicate to this audience, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on, again, professional people, a lot of job seekers. This is a thought leader platform. So tweaking our tone so that it resonates with the people following us on this channel has been an important piece of the puzzle to help drive our engagement and increase our followers. So you'll see on the top right, both of these updates actually promote the same event, but our Twitter update is going to be a lot more casual than our LinkedIn update. And I like to think about the tone of our channel as it has a casual flair, but it's still professional. What would you say to a coworker you don't know very well, or how would you deliver that message in a meeting? You can still be casual. You can still have the conversation. You don't have to be a robot. You don't have to be a textbook. But trying to keep that kind of professional feel on the channel has worked well for us, where that doesn't work well on necessarily Facebook, where that's the warm, fuzzy, kind of more community and not heavy-hitting kind of delivery of the message there. And actually choosing content for the channel that performs well, again, with the audience and with the feel of the channel. So, we still want to fit that hyper strategy. We still want to, this is a slide about humanizing with updates. So we still want to humanize our brand, but, the top right was a great post on Facebook, great engagement, where that type of content that I've tried on LinkedIn when it's about children or families doesn't necessarily perform as well as what you see there with our president and CEO talking about how he's interacted with our customers in a blog post and how he's connected with the community and what he's learned to help us develop our company. So while that still humanizes our brand, that message doesn't necessarily resonate with our Facebook audience. So choosing the content, again, going back, Carolyn really hit on a lot of this stuff, but to dive a little deeper into it so you can actually see some examples here. We actually choose our content from a variety of places. We ask all of our business units in our different divisions to share what they want to showcase on social and what kind of campaigns they want to actually put out there. We also use our Spreadfast analytics and take a look at what's performing well and maybe what the best received content is and help develop content per channel based on that. And then we also have another tool called TrackMaven that is it actually shows us our competitors and what they're doing. So we can kind of get a feel for what's resonating well with those audiences, and maybe they'll resonate with us as well. We noticed, as you can tell from the Highmark Health update with David Holmberg, that news performs well, statistics perform well for us on the channel, a little heavier content that's a little newsier, a little more formal. Our audience, that really resonates with them. So what resonates with us and our audience might not work for your audience. So our top performing content, to look at it on a big picture, careers, again, not surprising, does very well, engagement, and actually when we can put a little bit of a budget behind it, it does increase some followership based on a paid buy, but even organically, we get a lot of likes and shares and click-throughs. PR and news, these are the things that are, the community connection and what we're doing that's ahead of the curve, where we're being reported in the mainstream news on different programs we have that are ahead of the industry and thought leadership. And then our employee news performs very well, as you'll see in an upcoming slide. And then all of our other content, that wellness at work or anything else that kind of slides in that is maybe a career tip or that kind of thing that isn't necessarily a job posting or a job update. And again, taking a look at that content and making sure your audience likes it. Your audience might not engage at all with career, or they might not engage at all with an update you put out there with employees. But being able to see this is a lot of a SpreadFast tool that we use to be able to see these big buckets. So being able to look at what's resonating, what's working. Even in the analytics tab, you can see that on LinkedIn. You can see how your content's doing, how many people clicked on it, how many people liked it. So evaluating that on a regular basis is really, really important for us, and it should help you as well develop that content. So some specific examples of our top content, just a couple of quick slides here. Chip Merkel, he moved from COO of United Concordia over to an EVP of one of our of a Highmark Inc. And this has been by far one of our top pieces of content. 13 comments is unbelievable for us. Our folks aren't very chatty on this channel. We get some likes, we get some clicks. There were a lot of congratulatory messages, a lot of Chip deserves this, he's such a nice guy. And those impressions are all organic. So by people actually liking and clicking and sharing your content, that's all showing up in other people's news feeds that's in the networks. So if you can find that engaging content and get somebody to click on that, that'll show up in their network's news feed that you liked that update. So those 11,000 impressions were all organically driven, that people saw that content from our channel. Again, careers, not surprising, but we had a really big career fair with our Mayor Bill Peduto in Pittsburgh. One of the highest click-through rates we've had and engagement rates. Not very many impressions, but the message resonated with those 2,500 people that saw it. And overall, with our shares, this isn't a very awful number. Meaning, it's not, you might think 5 isn't many, but for us, 5 is a lot for shares. But this content, it was a great work-life balance quiz. I recommend swing by our page and take it, see how your work-life balance is. But this content with the work-life quiz was some of that kind of healthy living at work, kind of that general content. So not bad engagement, but the 5 shares was great for us. And then promoting that employer brand that we have great employee benefits through Highmark Health and the Diversified Businesses here, and being able to showcase this type of content helps us attract quality talent. And some of it is actually maybe a little bit of an education for our employees who follow us. People maybe don't know all these programs exist, even though they work for us. A lot of link clicks on this, and great engagement, and again, all organic. So, where we normally get 1,000 or 2,000 impressions, the higher content really does push out there organically once you can have people engaging with that content. As far as taking a look at your content, weekly, monthly, whenever you can fit it in to really say like what's working. This might be an added channel for you on top of what you're already doing, but trying to keep that message consistent. We post once a day and then sometimes twice a day. If it warrants, we'll put a third update out. But keeping a consistent presence in front of your audience, seeing what they're engaging with, how they're engaging with it, and trying to develop strategy based on what's working. It's been successful for us. We've, since February, increased our followers by more than 100%, almost 125%, and our engagement is through the roof. We've had a 400% engagement since February. So being able to really look at what's working. Some other successes for us are we've had increased referrals back to our talent communities in our talent acquisition department, as well as increased job applicants from LinkedIn. And also the talent communities are a database where people can sign up, and then we can push company job updates out to them. So that's been great for our talent acquisition folks. So with that, test, evaluate, and keep it going. So that's with that, I'm going to send it over to Stacy at Level 3 Communications.
Thank you, Trish. I appreciate it. That was great info. Thrilled to be here, and thanks everybody for joining us today. So my name is Stacy Sayer, and I lead social media globally for Level 3 Communications. To start by just giving you all a very top view of who Level 3 is, we are one of the few Tier 1 global communication networks worldwide. We provide communication services to many of the Fortune 100, including major enterprise, government, and carrier customers. We have connectivity in over 500 markets within 60 countries. And that is inclusive of a very large, what you see there is a map of our global network. So you can see that we have a large subsea cable footprint as well. So we essentially are connecting the world to the internet. On top of our connectivity portfolio, we also offer a series of data, security, video, voice, and unified communication solutions to help folks augment their next generation IT services. So yeah, next slide, please. There we go, perfect. So we view LinkedIn from three major perspectives: marketing, sales, and our HR team. For marketing, we are looking for LinkedIn to first and foremost raise our brand awareness. This is a major corporate initiative for us. We are looking to put our brand out there front and center to really help expand our business, particularly with large enterprises. We also use it as part of our lead generation campaigns. So each of our regions is responsible for lead generation to help enable sales, and they use LinkedIn for a host of manners to help augment those efforts. For sales, it's primarily a research tool, and so knowing that the term free was in the title of this webinar, we do go and make premium purchases for tools like Sales Navigator or Recruiter to enable both our sales and our HR team to be able to expand their view of LinkedIn's massive network, to help them target the right individuals, both for either job opportunities or potential new sales or cross-sale and upsell opportunities. So right now we have, this slide says over 85,000. I just looked at it before I hopped on, and we're at about 86,000 members. They come from, it's a variety of folks. So we have current employees, job seekers, former employees, customers, prospects, industry analysts, so the folks from Frost & Sullivan or Gartner, our variety of partners. For anybody who has been in telecom, you know that it's a very kind of matrixed industry. competitors, and then what I call our miscellaneous value chain. And so these can be folks from any part of the telecom industry that are just interested in understanding, what we're doing. Our total social audience is well above 140,000. Of that, LinkedIn holds 72% of that share. So it is a critical platform for us, and we, are constantly aiming to get it right, and have had some really big success thus far. So when we looked at LinkedIn, and really this is across social, I use what I have termed the 4 E's approach to content. So at Level 3, we create a massive amount of content, both owned, earned, and paid content. And so it's incumbent upon me in my role to look at this vast landscape of content and say, what makes sense for a social audience? And so we look at it from 4 different perspectives. One is that it has to be legitimately educational. Whatever that piece of content is, there needs to be some new, thoughtful insight that the audience is going to be able to take away from. It also needs to be emotive. So particularly for a large B2B brand, this is kind of a pivot from the typical way of doing business, in that I am looking for content that's going to elicit some sort of emotion from the audience. The last thing that I would want is to have the audience behave apathetically towards what we post. So I'm not afraid, on different platforms, in particular Twitter, to be funny. We're not afraid to put out material that may elicit negative reactions as well, or that may be seen as controversial to the industry. We also want to be engaging. And so what that means is that we are looking within each of the pieces of content that we write to extend that conversation. So it's to ask for feedback, to actively solicit folks to participate in the conversation. And then the 4th piece of it is to be exclusive. And that means that we are delivering content and information that is exclusive to our social audience, so that if you join us on LinkedIn or you join us on Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest or whatever, you know that this is your one-stop shop for valuable brand-related and even industry-related information. We're not sharing this, just anywhere. It's exclusive to our social audience because we really are looking to add value. So when we looked at LinkedIn, and when we go to the next slide, I'll show you how it kind of maps out against all of our additional platforms. But when I'm looking at LinkedIn and at the audience expectations and desires, we really use LinkedIn as our kind of marquee platform. It's the platform that gets the best of our content. And so that can look like our case studies, that can be blog posts, maps or visuals, and anecdotally I will tell you that the maps and visuals that we put out of our network are far and away the most popular content that we have. Folks love those visuals, and they love to be able to pull that up and see where different connection points lie, to better understand where all of our data centers are in a particular geographic market. Infographics, and then social events. Social events is a little bit unique. We don't publish all of our trade shows to every single platform. We primarily use Twitter for that, given the viral and easily searchable nature of hashtags. But for social events, given that it's a contextual experience, we will share, hey, we're having a Twitter chat. Hey, we're going to be using Periscope to do this, that, or the other thing. We will share those across all of our platforms. And this one that you're seeing with the live on Periscope, I actually just put this out a couple of days ago, and it's probably the most highly engaged piece of content that I've had for the last month. So folks are excited to engage in a contextual format. So our content approach, obviously, and Trish had mentioned how Highmark does, and we take a similar view. We do not share the exact same post on every single platform. That becomes rote, it becomes mundane. We don't even share the same content on every platform. There are pieces of content that I will share exclusively to Twitter that will never see Facebook or LinkedIn. We also look for different ways to really get mileage out of that content. So a great example of that is Cisco Security Solutions just put out a phenomenal blog for us this morning. We will tweet that directly via Twitter and multiple sessions, but rather than let it kind of filter into our Facebook feed, we will go out to their page and comment on that blog post. So it's a more subtle approach Anytime I comment or I share via our Facebook page, you know, our community can see that, but it's a different manner, and it's not an official post for us. So I'm always looking for those types of opportunities, the different variable ways and methodology that a brand can engage on each platform, and really maximize that. In any event, when we look at our content approach, it's really a function of formality and frequency. You can see those X and Y charts. So for LinkedIn and SlideShare, which is part of LinkedIn, but it functions in a bit of a different manner. We behave in a more formal manner. We obviously don't post as much there, just given the nature of what those platforms are intended to do. And you've seen a cascading line on the other end is Twitter and Pinterest. So we will post more frequently. We're a lot more colloquial on those platforms. Twitter in particular is where we get the bulk of our customer service inquiries. So we spend a lot of time on that platform kind of massaging our audience, so to speak. LinkedIn nets out somewhere in the middle for us. So we post about 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what's happening, but at a minimum twice a week. I prefer about 3 to 4 times if we have something legitimately interesting to say. But we take a more formal approach versus our traditional social platforms, because this is, and again, this is back to that concept of context. Folks are on LinkedIn to build their careers. It's a different context than being on a Facebook or a Pinterest, where you may see us while at the same time you're seeing all these great recipes, or you may see a post from us on LinkedIn at the same time your grandma just took a selfie with her dog or whatever. Within that LinkedIn context, we found that it requires us to be more thoughtful in our approach, and we have a bit more room to say more and to be more direct and transparent. So we really look to kind of marry our content and marry our tone and voice to that contextualized expectation, I guess, from the audience is the best word. So for us, it's a healthy mix of earned, and I should have included owned and paid media. So we do, again, organic updates 2 to 3 times a week. We also leverage additional paid media options on LinkedIn. So that includes sponsored updates, which we've had great success with, as well as our organic updates. You know, I'll tell you my average engagement rate on a strictly organic update hovers around 0.7%-ish. If I get over 1%, that's a really great engagement rate. If it drops down into 0.3 to 0.4%, that tells me that that piece of content typically isn't as exciting, or maybe has been shared too often or has aged out for the audience, and so we'll kind of dial those down. So I'm constantly looking at those engagement rates to understand what really is going to, you know, send folks to go do something for us. I think the highest engagement we've ever received is at about 3.5%. A couple of years ago. We also use sponsored in-mail. There we go. We also use sponsored in-mail as part of kind of larger campaign pushes. That's another tactic that we use. And then we also use the Sales Navigator and Recruiter tools for our sales teams and our recruitment teams. And I have to tell you that the feedback on both of those tools is exceptional. Folks love those tools and they really rely on them. So what we've learned really is, number one, to do your research. So I am, and hopefully some of you on the call empathize with this, I'm essentially a team of one. So I rely heavily on my social media network. So I will call folks at other major brands who do social media day in and day out and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What's your opinion on this? What is the engagement that you see on this type of content? How do you feel your audience has responded to this, side, or the other thing? Coupled with, obviously, reading the latest stats and news articles that are available, which are, you know, a dime a dozen these days. Everybody's writing about social, which is great. And kind of doing that research and then evaluating what I know based on the metrics that we pull out of platforms like Spreadfast or BrandWatch, which is our social listening tool, and evaluate that against the data that we've got in-house to help make decisions. And the second piece is really similar to what Trish said before: test, 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 and test, and then test again. So I am constantly looking at, via our SpreadFast tool, what time of day resonates best? When do we see the most engagement? Time of day, day of week, all of that stuff. Evaluating the content pieces that do the best, and then augmenting our content calendar around that to help us maximize engagement. And the third piece of it is that we know that for our brand, LinkedIn generates better quality leads. I would say versus something like a Twitter or a Facebook, there may be less leads, but they're better quality, and that's really where I'd rather invest my money. I can get 1,000 inquiries or leads from something that I've published on Twitter, but I can maybe get half of that on LinkedIn, but those leads are much more apt to continue through the sales process with us versus the Twitter leads. And I think, again, that's a function of the type of folks that are on these platforms, and also, again, back to that context. I am on LinkedIn with a business mindset, and so I'm more apt to do business. We monitor that based on, so we also, bring in, we use Adobe Analytics on the back end. So we are able to monitor when folks click through, or, when they convert on a landing page, we can tell their root origin, and we're able to follow them through our process. And from that, it's generated a lot of really valuable data for us. And so I think that's it. So from that, I will hand it over to Celine.
All right, thank you so much, Stacy. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your insights. I think this will give everybody a great blueprint for success on LinkedIn, especially when it comes to B2B audiences. We have a ton of questions, and I still have some content to go through. So I'm actually going to breeze through the company page best practices so we have plenty of time for questions. I'm going to start with this Evernote example. And as you see in this example, whenever you're releasing a new feature or have important news, it's awesome. A great way to keep it top of mind for your visitors or your followers is to pin this update. And to quickly go over it, basically what you do is whenever you're posting something, at the very bottom you'll see pin to top. If you click on that, it will pin this update to the very top of your company page for 14 days. And during this time, you can unpin at any time, or if it expires, you can repin. The next best practice is from Hootsuite, and I think this is something that that's echoing a lot of things that Carolyn, Trish, and Stacey all touched on. It's imperative that when you're sharing an update on LinkedIn, asking yourself the question, why would my followers want to read this? And so it's really important to create that clear value proposition for your followers. So, here Hootsuite is stating right away that the goal of the content is to help the reader understand how they can successfully incorporate social into their marketing plan. So picking the right content is half the battle. Making sure that that intro paragraph that you're writing for your content on LinkedIn really echoes this sentiment and crisply communicates this message to your audience. And quickly want to take a look at what types of topics your followers want to hear. And it's great to see that through testing and research, all of these companies have already discovered how to tailor your content accordingly. And you will be emailed these slides, so I'm not going to go through them one by one, but it's really important to understand why people follow your company. So when we researched earlier this year, what we saw was people are following you because they want to hear exclusive insights about the industry, latest news about your company. They're either your prospects and wanting to learn more because they're in their B2B buyer's journey and trying to make a decision, and this is a great way for them to learn more about your company and to keep it in the mix of their consideration set. Or it could be a current employee, past employee, or someone who wants to work for you. So it's a great way to keep them engaged about your company culture, your company news, all that great stuff. And so with these topics that your followers want to read in mind, transitioning to Tesla Motors, who frequently shares their latest announcements and uses their company page to give their visitors exclusive sneak peek on what's to come from their brand. great way to leverage company pages and keep their followers engaged because they are trained to come back for these exclusive news that they won't be able to find anywhere else in social media or possibly anywhere else on the web. And the next example is from L'Oreal, who has a very similar approach to Tesla, but what I want to highlight here is something that everybody mentioned again, it's the tone, and it's making sure that you are humanizing your brand, celebrating milestones with your followers, and creating that conversational tone to boost engagement and really encourage that back and forth communication with your followers. And this example from Luxottica is doing a great job getting the most mileage from their career page and then echoing this on their company page. So they have a lot of rich content about their company culture, and it's a great way to not just post jobs on LinkedIn, but then to create that engagement so that people understand your brand and your culture, and great way to boost your talent acquisition efforts. And next example from Marketo. I always say that an image is worth 1,000 words, so make sure you have a compelling image. Here in the Marketo example, the image nicely complements the topic of productivity killer concept. It's unique, it's colorful, really pops. So Marketo always does a great job with these visuals. So if you're looking for visual inspiration, it's a great company page to go to get some inspiration. And Nature Conservancy actually takes this one step further to large images. They have beautiful large images that get a lot of in-feed engagement because they really pop in the feed, and it makes you stop and really want to engage with that image. And the next example is from Procter & Gamble, who created a secret deodorant showcase page. So people may be coming to Procter & Gamble company page for employment-related news, but Secret Deodorant now has a great opportunity to highlight its brand, share exclusive stories, and talk about its products. If you have a business unit that you want to highlight, showcase pages may be a great way to tailor your brand to those specific target audiences and not do it all at once from your company page. And talking about Wells Fargo, what they are doing, which is another way to tailor your content, is actually targeted company updates. And you can target by company size, industry, function, seniority, geography, and language preference. I'm going to quickly go through how you can do that. So when you share the news, you have a drop-down where you can select all followers or targeted audience, and then you can just pick and choose whatever target audience your content is relevant to. If it's under 100 members that you're targeting, then this tool will not work for you, so make sure that whoever you're targeting is above 100 followers. And the next example is from Dell, and what they do is, again, a concept that specifically Stacy talked about is sponsoring your content that's doing well so that you can expand your reach beyond your followers to your prospects or whatever target audience you're trying to reach directly in their feed. And you can go to our marketing.linkedin.com for other best practices. And we have only a few minutes, but that's all the content we had for today. And we have a lot of questions. If we don't answer your questions, you can use our handles to ask these questions directly in Twitter. But with that, I want to open it up for questions for the speakers.
So this is Carolyn. One of the questions that I got was, we talked about driving prospects to the LinkedIn company page as one of the lead generation strategies, and what's the advantage of driving leads to the company page versus driving them to the own company website. And kind of the theory that we look at is, if somebody is engaging with you within LinkedIn or within that social network, then they're not necessarily going to be excited about being taken out of where they've chosen to engage with you. And so, not saying don't have, you definitely want your company page to be very much like your web page and make sure that common branding and those things. But then if I go to the company page within LinkedIn, then I can link out to that and be able to make that connection. Another question we had was talking about the best practices on 1 to 3 posts per day. And I'll start this, but Stacy, if you want to chime in too, it was how can you manage this when you're one person social media team and you have a lot of other things to do? Obviously, you guys have to balance what you can do and it's all about your messaging. So as Stacy talked about what resonated with her audience, this is what we've seen as a best practice, but I'll let Stacy chime in a little bit too on what her success has been.
Yeah, magic. Ta-da! No, you know, so it really is about, for us, I could not do what I do. So LinkedIn, of all of our major social networks, is the one that I post to the least. So we're talking about 3 to 4 Facebook posts a week, 3 to 4 Google Plus posts a week, upwards of 50 plus tweets a week. There's no way I can manage all of this as a single person. We really do rely on a publication tool like Spreadfast to help us set that up. So I will go in day to day or, you know, multiple times a week and adjust that content calendar based on what's going on. So for instance, if God forbid Hurricane Joaquin had turned into something major for the East Coast, I would have gone immediately into Spreadfast and shut down all of that content for at least 24 hours because, you know, to us, we feel like it's, gosh, really inappropriate to be blathering on about what a great company we are while people are really struggling, you know, in that part of the world. So having something that really allows me to go in and not only schedule and publish ahead of time, but also gather a whole ton of analytics is kind of the secret sauce to that whole business. Yeah.
And I think that ties to a couple of the first questions as I was presenting, talking about the content screen section, and as well as also the reports coming from my slides. Definitely LinkedIn provides analytics and giving you those insights, but the screenshots I was showing were actually from the Spreadfast system of where you can manage that content, and another reason to think about that is we can look at analytics across your company pages, across your groups. And so that might be another reason to think about a technology beyond LinkedIn.
Awesome. So I think we're all out of time, but the other thing that we can do, and I'm literally going to put Spreadfast on the line here, but Carolyn, maybe what we can do is we will get these questions at the end, so we could write a blog post on LinkedIn together to answer some of these questions for our interested parties. So we will follow up with a blog post answering these questions for you guys. And if you're keen on getting quicker answers, always feel free to also use our Twitter handles here and ask us questions directly. So thank you again. Awesome speakers today. Great knowledge coming from Trish, Stacy, Carolyn. Really appreciate your time. Like we said, if you have, we would love it if you could fill out our survey. Otherwise, you will be seeing a follow-up from us to answer some of these questions that you have in the webinar that were unfortunately not answered. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.